like everybody else did. It starts back there. And it don't bother me if I say it, and I don't care if everybody hears me. I think everybody here probably feels the same damn way I do. Thank you. Go back to wherever the fuck you come from, lady. Y'all think you... Hey, tell them to go back where they belong. They can't act like, you know, they come here to live and act like everybody else. Get in the back of the line like everybody else does. And be somebody. And that's the way I look at it. You're a nobodies. Just because you come from another country, it don't make you nobody. You're nobody. As far as I'm concerned, probably on welfare. The taxpayers probably paid for all that stuff. It's true. They probably paid. We probably paid for every bit of that stuff. You know that? Probably all the food they get and everything else. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. That's okay. Speak English. You're in America. If you don't know it, learn it. And I'm sorry that I'm that way, but you all need to realize you're not the only ones around here.
Aloha. I just wanted to make a quick video in reference to the idea of unnatural disasters and seeing the so-called Western civilization in itself as an unnatural disaster, and really kind of just give some examples of the power grid as of today, how it's gotten up to where it is, and really kind of just piece together some of the things that are keeping this foundation afloat and keeping this infrastructure alive. Because there's two sides. There's the energy behind making this system grow, and then there's this energy behind the people who allow it to grow. Whether you ignore it, are apathetic towards it, or are in some way benefiting from this system. And the foundations of this system, where I'm coming from, go all the way back to the beginning of the expansion of the colonial agenda. And you can go further back than that, even into the Roman Empire. But what I'm focusing on now, and what I have been focusing on in previous videos, is the infrastructure of this empire we are living underneath today. This idea of bloodlines, kingdoms, fiat currency, laws created by criminals, laws created by pirates, to set out a tone of enslavement for those who have any chance of fighting back and taking this sandcastle down, and apathy or distraction for the rest of the people. So these are also the two things: the people who have the power, who have the knowledge, who have the will to disassemble this program, are attacked and imprisoned. We see this with the prison industrial complex. The fact that there is a prison industrial complex should raise some red flags for the entire program. More people are locked up in the United States, which is a so-called free world, than anywhere else in the world. More melanated people are the overwhelming number, or a majority of people that are locked up. in that system. So you have the free world telling you it's free, built on the blood and the bones, the genocide and the massacre of the indigenous people, the original people, which I've explained in previous videos. There are no African Americans. There are indigenous Americans who are melanated, who have been labeled as paper genocided as African Americans or Negroes or whatever system, whatever this system has placed upon us, in order to maintain this limited understanding, and overstanding of who and what we are, so that we will not have the willpower to fight back, to not even having to fight back, in a sense, to acknowledge that this land, acknowledge your relationship to the land, acknowledge the history that has been written by pirates, acknowledge the history that has been written by criminals. This is what I said, those lack of acknowledgments. In previous videos, I've been saying this, that equally the people who are apathetic to this, to the origins of this system, are equal to the people who are building this system up, and are equal to people who benefit from this system. Nothing will change until the blood is removed, these wounds are healed from this human observation, or this human perspective, this experience that we have. You can't build a healthy foundation on top of festering wounds. It's not going to work. It's like trying to put a band-aid on a cancer, or, you know, one cancer of the body, when the entire body is filled with cancer and it's bleeding out, suffocating, having to pay for shelter, having to pay for resources, having to pay through these criminals, these pirates, for your basic human needs. This is unnatural. It is an extended disaster. The peak of these disasters are things like weather manipulation, genetic modification, the public education system, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex. These are all systems that keep this world afloat, this power grid afloat. And I still to this day cannot understand how people can throw around, oh, the powers that should not be, the powers that be, those people, the reptilians, this and that. At the foundation of that is inhumanity. This is not a movie reel. This is not a video game. It's not a cartoon. Actual people are losing their lives because there is no acknowledgement of the origins of this system. And this goes for all the conspiracy theorists and truthers and everything else out there, including Flat Earth. Flat Earth, the New Age program, conspiracy theories, it doesn't matter how much information you dig up within this system to reveal within this system. If you don't simultaneously build yourself up, empower yourself to acknowledge and speak what is going on here in this program and the origins of this story, it's all for naught, because it's not actually healing any of the wounds. There's no one thing that can heal these wounds. Each wound has to be healed one at a time. So when you have something like racism, you have to understand, and then you have President Trump and all his other minions in the White House, get to the origins of that cancer. Remove the cancer. Don't get caught up in the back and forth busy work. of the world that they're presenting to you, this North Korea stuff, even the hurricane stuff. When you get caught up in the hurricane stuff, you're not really acknowledging the ability that this system has to modify the weather and actually create these unnatural disasters. We're not looking at that when we're looking at the disaster. This system thrives off of destruction, disaster. It was built off of destruction, and disaster. That story has to be continued to be played. But if they do it right out in the open, right in your face, you'll disassemble the program. They can't do it right in front of you. They have to create a veil. So NASA tells you they're going to space. The disaster there is that they're stripping $19 billion of your tax money per year. Stripping $50 million a day from you, the individual. The other side of that is what sinister programs they're actually using that money for if they're not going to space. Then you have the HARP program. Then you have all of these so-called natural disasters, as simple as something like heating up water, heating up the atmosphere. You see these programs. All of these hurricanes. I just watched a video with Trevor Noah, The Daily Show, the other day, talking about Hurricane Harvey and then Irma, and then immediately channeled those perspectives into climate change or global warming. That's what these systems are doing. That's what this program is for. NASA needs the globe. They need climate change in order to sell the globe. Disasters sell the globe. They also sell the next agenda to fix whatever program is going on. So you have all these carbon taxes and all this other stuff. You know they're using all of this programming to sell in the next agenda, whatever this the new world order, or it's just the same old world order, just shifting into the next phase. This programming is designed to make you believe in it and ask it for the solution. Once you give your power away to that system and ask it for the solution of your future, you have given up your past. You have given up your present interpretations of this reality in order to buy into whatever program that they're selling to you. And this is why I said the evolution empire of the last video. It's built off of the idea of the university system, NASA, SpaceX, technology, the so-called civilization as it is today being the evolutionary peak of this experience, which is proven to be a total bogus lie. When you understand ancient technologies, ancient peoples, ancient interpretations of this realities. Stop there and realize whatever perspective that you want to come from is what you will use to disassemble this program. But a lot of people who are so vested in this new world, in this Western civilization, they have no foundations. They have no roots to root themselves in. So they can't speak about this information. They can't let it go. People in the flat earth community are prime examples of this. A lot of the information that exists out there, just from observing your reality and other perspectives, that goes counter to religious beliefs. People can't let that go. They can't let go of their God, their idea of God, their religions. So they'll create some kind of perspective that excuse me, either looks the other way or validates their original belief systems through the religions. There's no different than the religion of scientism, where you have atheists backing up whatever kind of perspective the university system comes out with. So scientism. And then the same thing goes for Western civilization. Western civilization is equally a religion. And if you ask me, Western civilization is actually a bigger religion than scientism, because scientism is a faction of Western civilization. Scientism, the university system, the heliocentric model, everything that this sandcastle is made up of was built on the foundation of colonization, of this idea of the new world, of this idea of Western civilization and a Western way of life. There is no Western and Eastern way of life. Just like there is no Middle East, there even is no Europe. Europe is not a continent. These are all mental programs to make you believe in a particular idea of reality. There are no separating programs. They made duality, divisiveness within duality within duality. It's a dream within a dream. That's what all this Western civilization is. There is no West and East. There is only natural and unnatural. That's it. Humane and inhumane. Inhumane is unnatural. It's as simple as that. But when you break it down and when you look at how that system exists, is it humane to be enslaving people the way everybody has been enslaved across the world, not just in the United States? Is it humane to be imprisoning people at the numbers that they are being imprisoned in the United States and all across the world and bombed all across the world? On top of the fact that this system is built upon a pirate law system based on criminals. You're not free. You have a permission slip of freedom. That's what the United States of America is. You're not free. If you're born here, you're giving a permission slip, which is your birth certificate, to what they call freedom. And here are the stipulations. You have to believe this. You have to act this way. You have to speak this way. You have to dress this way. You have to think this way. You have to go to school. You have to believe you live on a globe. You have to believe that Western civilization is the evolutionary peak of humanity. You have to believe that war brings peace. You have to believe that it's a good thing that the military-industrial complex exists. You have to believe that the government is a good thing in the way it's imprisoning people. It's a good thing that they're installing all of these drugs and weapons inside these inner cities. It's a good thing that they have racism running rampant. It's a good thing that racism actually exists, because that's another thing that's out there. People are getting caught up within the storyline of racism and not really understanding the origins of racism. Not differences with people. I'm talking about racism as it's being thrusted upon society, as it's been utilized as a military weapon to dominate and control people. This is the infrastructure of what is known as white supremacy and so on and so forth. There's a very different feel and understanding of what the origins of racism is and just basic differences between people living here. That's natural. What's natural is being diverse. That's natural. What's unnatural is creating a political system that utilizes that diversity to benefit a particular group of people. That's the foundation. That's the origin of racism. Look at Hollywood. Look at your actors. Look at your politicians. This is not something that people are just overreacting to. Imagine if that unnatural program never existed in the first place. Just by me mentioning this perspective, I'm already being labeled as racist by certain people. This is about what's natural and what's unnatural. It's unnatural to create a power grid based upon something like white supremacy and racism. And this is not like, oh, this is a political thing. If you are still having trouble with understanding the implications of racism, really, I'm coming at it from a child mind perspective of a 2, 3, and 4, and 5-year-old child is being raised in the United States. At that age, they are already subconsciously, unconsciously, and when they get into school, definitely consciously hating themselves on particular layers, depending on how they were raised and the information that they are given on a regular basis. You want proof of this? Research the the doll experiment. Black doll, white doll experiment. Research that for yourself. And ask yourself, is this natural or is this a product of the society? And then ask yourself, what would humanity, what would society be like if this never existed? How is society benefiting from this today? Certain people. How is the power grid benefiting from this today? What can we do to acknowledge that this exists in order to heal this program? Because just dressing yourself up in a happy-go-lucky new age perspective, or even coming together as we all live on a flat earth, is not going to save everything. That's exactly what this so-called New World Order wants you to do. They want to sell you, because like I said before, it's not about racism and not racism. It's about natural and unnatural. The natural diversity of humanity is beautiful and on purpose. That's natural. What's unnatural is to water everything down and say we are all human. That exists on one level. But if you only see that perspective from one level, you will actually cover up the meaning and purpose of the natural diversity of who and what we are. And that's what this system wants to do. And that's what I'm seeing certain parts of flat earth is trying, or not trying to do, but some people who are out there consciously trying to do this, because the information has not been researched. The depths have not been gone to. It's easy to say. A child can say that. But are you going to allow a child to create your future for you based upon all the complexities of society? No, you're going to challenge that child to grow and go deep into the past, the present, and the future, and the synthetic versions of all three of those that's being manipulated by this unnatural system. Allow that child or whoever to be informed about what's going on, and then make the decision on how this program is trying to protect itself and how we can empower ourselves to come together and actually face this system without being subjected to it. You have to face the power from an empowered space. If you just face the power just by seeing that it exists, you're already lost. If you're not empowering yourself while you're facing that power, you're at best 50% at power. Because first it's about acknowledging it, seeing that something exists. Then the other 50% is your actual work, your depth, how far you go and you take it, each step that you take, each thought that you make. It's about going. Potential and kinetic energy. Potential energy is just the energy that exists. Oh, we're all human. Oh, diversity is great. Oh, love, light, compassion. Oh, the flat earth. That's all potential energy. But the other side of that potential energy is kinetic energy. What you do with that potential energy. You can build up all the energy in the world, but if you're just going to build up all that energy, and this goes for the people who are talking about flat earth going mainstream, that's all potential energy. If you just build it up, build, and then hand it over to the kinetic energy, and then hand it over to the system. And the system turns that potential energy that you built up into kinetic energy that's actually being used against you. Because you didn't empower yourself. You didn't take the steps to turn that potential energy into kinetic energy. And the only way you can actually turn that potential energy into kinetic energy is if you go to the roots of this system. See, the system itself makes its roots for you, because you're disempowered. So whatever they say is your truth. This is why you have so many people sitting back and waiting for the system to accept flat earth, to turn this flat earth switch on and sell it to the people. Because they haven't figured out how to learn for themselves, how to think for themselves, how to create kinetic energy for themselves. So you have people priding themselves in potential energy, spinning the wheels, gold plating the rims as they spin the tread off, never moving anywhere. Meanwhile, the system is building up all of its potential and kinetic energy within your lack of movement, your lack of going to the depth. This is what I'm saying is so dangerous with individuals in the flat earth circles who are just, saying, well, it's flat earth is it. It's just flat earth and, that's going to save everything. No, the only thing that's going to actually have a chance of changing anything is you and how far you go. That makes up all of us. If you just come together and circle around and say the only thing that you need to do is realize that we live on a flat earth and everything is going to be okay, you'll have an entire, instead of a globe of slaves, you'll have a flat plane of slaves. It's no different. The empowered space goes within the human story. And all of these images you've been looking at as I've been speaking are adding up to what this system uses against us, what we don't look at. We don't stop. Things move so fast in the mainstream. Every day there's something new. That exists the way that exists in order to take your power away, in order to make you hopeless and apathetic, and focusing on such a shift in perspective and focus that you have nothing to grab onto. It's a defense mechanism. It's like a boxer that keeps moving around. And they hit you one time. They've knocked you out already. Christopher Columbus hit you out, knocked you out in the first round. And all they have to do, all Christopher Columbus has to do for the next 12 rounds is play defense. Because at the end of the game or the end of the match, they got that one knockout. And if you haven't acknowledged that and empower yourself to realize that this whole ring, this whole match, this whole system, your opponent is being used in so many different ways for you to fight yourself. Meanwhile, they're playing defense and distracting you. It's very complex, but when you go into the depths, it really just breaks down to the simplicity of that complexity is what is natural and what is unnatural. To separate you from the earth, your interpretations, your mental capacity to lock in to relationships with each other and relationships with nature is destructive. It's unnatural to sell you a universe with CGI, with fear, with war. It's unnatural, but this is the way of the world. Flat Earth is the commercial for the natural world. It's not the movie or the movie theater. It's only the commercial. The whole experience is mostly you, the experiencer. And what is happening to the experiencer? What has happened to the experiencer? How has this movie mind controlled and programmed people to think and act a certain way? How is that system used against us? How are these criminals able to create all of these defense mechanisms to allow them to stay in power? Some of the main ones that we're seeing today that are being utilized for the next agendas are things like I said, like these weather modification, unnatural disasters, hurricane after hurricane. It doesn't seem natural. It's because it's not natural. These are being generated because the more death, destruction, and disasters that face you as a codependent people, that empowers the so-called powers that be. Because you have lost more. You've lost your foundation. You've lost your home. You've lost your power, your willpower. You have no... People have lost family members. People have lost their homes, their cars, their jobs. That is like a blanket of removing power from the masses with weather in order to maintain, not only maintain power for the so-called powers that be, but maintain your distraction and your codependency on that system. This is why Trevor Noah on The Daily Show and all these other people like Michael Moore and Stephen Colbert and all these, whoever's out there in the mainstream media selling you, Bill Maher, selling you all that stuff about climate change and global warming, that's why they sell that to you. Because who's going to stop climate change and global warming? The all-powerful Al Gore, of course. That's why he's out there selling those documentaries. He's not part of the Clintons. He worked with the Clintons, but he's Al Gore. He's the one of the good ones. He's been on the Russell Brand show talking about climate change and global warming. This is the stuff we need to focus on. That's the synthetic nature that they want you to focus on. Simultaneously, you're blaming yourself because they put the blame inherently on you, who's empowering these corporations to put all of those carbon atoms into the atmosphere and put all of that oil in the water. They're putting it on you because you can't let go of Western civilization, which is not entirely untrue. It's largely very true because people are not acknowledging. But that's the thing, to get you caught up in that emotional body of, oh, yeah, we need to do something. Well, who are your representatives of what you do or think you're doing? Obviously, your politicians. So this is the endless cycle of codependency, the endless cycle of this haves and have-nots program existing at the expense of humanity, at the expense of nature. You asked for change. What kind of change are they going to give you in reference to global warming. The main thing they're selling is, carbon taxes. Oh yeah, we're gonna fight these corporations. The Bernie Sanders Fix It program, the Barack Obama Fix It program, the Trump Fix It program. Can't even say Trump Fix It program because he's actually just a distraction for the next Fix It program. He's the bottom part of the artificial frequency that's sold to us that keeps us buying into the system. He's the one, just like George Bush before Barack Obama, and before that was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's seen as like an up. He's the cool hip guy who was doing all this so-called positive stuff for the nation, being told to you by the mainstream media, because that's how they tell you how to think. They're not telling you all of the things like Clinton at that time was putting more people in jail than anybody else at that time, that whole 3 strikes rule. But they made you love that guy. He went on the Arsenio show playing the saxophone. You loved that guy because the pirate mainstream media told you to love it. They played with your emotions. They made George Bush in there stupid, idiotic. That's on purpose so you can hate him. It's a love-hate relationship that you have with your slave masters. You hated him. Both sides work their agenda. Whether you love it or hate it, they'll play that role for them to sell in whatever agenda, either secretly or in your face. Secretly when you love the guy. In your face when you hate the guy, because they're just banking on stupidity or whatever. That's what's happening today with Trump. So they sold you the war on terrorism with Bush. They sold you weapons of mass destruction. They sold you Guantanamo and all this other stuff. And while you were at that low point, boom, your first so-called black president. And then what did he do? Nothing, obviously. He sold in another Bill Clinton type mentality where he actually did more harm than any good. But you are programmed to think that he did amazing. He's the best president ever by the programmers. Meanwhile, what is he doing? Expanding the war on so-called war on terrorism. And then they have you defending it. Well, what was he supposed to do? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is not new. It's not about any one individual. I'm talking about the system as a whole. They've been playing this system from the get-go. Reagan, before Bush, before Clinton was the other Bush, at war again. Before him was who? Carter, Reagan, Carter, Nixon. Meanwhile, the whole perspective is the same. It's maintain power, maintain control by manipulating your focus, your natural and unnatural perspectives of reality, manipulating your dependency, manipulating your power. This is not a new thing. You get caught up in it because they've told you to get caught up in it. But it's only your responsibility to think for yourself. They told you how to think about the Black Panthers. They told you how to think about Malcolm X. Hated him. Hated Martin Luther King. Hated Muhammad Ali. Hated all of the people. Whether you hate them or love them, it's what they are telling you to feel is what really matters, and how they're going to sell that agenda. So what do you think is going to happen when Flat Earth goes mainstream? What do you think is going to happen when they just flip that switch? We're in a downtime right now with Trump. And they're going to soak this downtime as much as they can. They're going to squeeze as much shit out of Donald Trump as they can, and however long he's in that office, before they send in the next distraction, which is going to be some kind of artificial upkick. Meanwhile, they're selling you the next enslavement program right underneath your nose. Through TV shows like The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, Bill Maher, Stephen Colbert, Alex Jones, TYT, because all of them still believe in the system. They want this pirate system to expand. They need it. Excuse me. They benefit from it. And largely, a lot of them are paid to protect this system. That's why I'm saying it's so crucial for people who are still, who are talking about the flat earth right now. It hasn't been co-opted yet. Once it gets co-opted, it's done. It's really done. It's not going to matter because the status quo will just jump on board anything that the so-called powers that be say. And everything that you've said before that will just get washed over. And it won't matter. So the only way it's going to matter is if you hit it beforehand, before it kicks into the next gear. Because people are just they're just gonna jump on board whatever the television tells them. I was talking to a friend the other day, and then I brought up flat earth. She literally ran away. So asked me about my story, and then when I mentioned flat earth, it was like, oh, you can see the terror. And I was one of those people. I was one of those guys. And then, skirted off. I mean, it's literally like a brick wall. There's nothing there. There's no ability to go in. People are given their reality. See, that's an example of how people are going to react and respond when the flat earth goes mainstream. The opposite of that is going to happen. People are going to say, see, I knew it. Oh, it's so amazing. Thank you. Some real truth is being put out there from whoever they sell it with, whether it's a celebrity, musicians, athletes, politicians, whatever it is. They're going to jump on board with their Twitter followers or whoever they're following or whoever their Facebook posts or, whatever pictures on Instagram of somebody holding a flat earth map that, was in this movie or something like that. They're going to follow it just like that. That's the opposite side of running away. See, right now, we're interacting with people online and they're just trying to defend their entire universe. That's why it's so painful for people, and they just lash out and wish death upon you. It's like, kill yourself. Like, you make a video, I saw a comment the other day, it says kill yourself, and this shit just makes me laugh because that's more of an example of people and like how deep this programming goes, how much it really means to people to have their entire reality challenged. So it's funny. At the same time, it's really sad because that's a representation of the majority of people who can't think for themselves. And as long as we keep allowing this to happen, it's just going to continue to expand. So they'll use weather manipulation and hurricanes in order to sell in global warming, climate change, and coming together as humanity to fight global warming and climate change for the benefit of humanity. They'll flip the switch of flat earth at any time to, demonize, throw under the bus, programs or people within NASA, and then amplify, the backup plan, which is SpaceX. They'll throw the education system under the bus to install some kind of new age education system and new age history perspective with the Anunnaki or the alien agenda with Nupiro, whatever it is. My main point is that all of these programs exist to distract you from your ultimate power, your natural existence. And on top of that, to realize how does this system exist in the first place? How did it get to where it got? Don't get consumed by the weapons that you're going to use to beat this system up. Remove the foundation from this system, and they won't have any weapons to fight against you. They won't have any power behind whatever weapons they do have. Because you have empowered you will have empowered yourself outside of the level of consciousness that they need you to be stuck within. Look at the people who are talking about flat earth today. A lot of the people see that it's about critical thinking once you get to a certain point. Think about like 3 or 4 years ago. Some people even less than that. What kind of arguments you got into with people? What kind of discussions you had? Where you allowed yourself to go when you were talking to somebody else, and how you don't do that anymore. That's an expansion of your consciousness, and people pick that up before you even say one word out of your mouth. They can see it in your eyes. They can feel it in your presence. That's an expanding of who and what you are outside of the physical reality. It's a part of you, and the only way you can do that is by going to the depths of your reality. If you only go to the shallow depths of your reality with new age programs like, we're all human, it's all about love, light, and compassion, you're only going so far, and it will max out. And people will burn that shit because it's fake. It only goes so far. No different than flat earth. You can have all the proofs in the world, but if you don't anchor that in the human perspective of what flat earth really means, this is why people's automatic response when you bring up flat earth is, what does it matter? What does it matter if the earth is flat or round? That comes out of, that's an instantaneous, like instinctive, defensive mechanism. Because they are challenging you instinctively to ask yourself, what does it matter? Those are the people who are actually like the most far gone, who are acting instinctively. The people who are caught up in the program, they want to challenge you with particular things that, you know, they want to find chinks in your armor. So they want to challenge you with specific questions. What about this, the curve? What about, you know, airplanes? What about the moon landing? What about this? What about that? Gravity, relativity, the Big Bang. They want to challenge you with all those things. But it's very beneficial to look at how people instinctively react who have no kind of, it's just completely a wash for them. And one of the main things that I've seen is people saying, what does it matter? It's not only a reflection that individual, when they say, why does it matter? It's equally a reflection to you who asks those questions to them or presents that information to them. What does it matter? Why does the heliocentric deception matter? And that can take an entire lifetime for you to challenge yourself to go into the depths of that. If you just stop and say, oh, it's about power and control and money and all that other stuff, that's the most simplistic, basic ass perspective out there. And you can pride yourself every day about it. You can be proud of that. Congratulations. You did it. You can live your whole life priding yourself with that. Is that perspective actually going to change anything or help people change anything in the long run? No. Why? Because there's more work to do. There's more information out there. Why did the fiat currency system, why does money exist in between you and human resources? Why does the illusion of authority exist between you and your experience on the soul, the mind, and the body level? The authority of religious programming separating you from the spirit, mainstream religions that are designed to separate you from the spirit, a middleman. The university system, the public education system, designed to separate you from natural intelligence. The food industry, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, the gladiator arena, all of these systems designed to destroy your body, to separate you from your natural physical reality. The entire infrastructure of this program is designed to remove your natural relationships. And if you fight that system, they'll either kill you or throw you in prison. And as long as the people keep accepting that that is okay without going to the depths of why this program exists in the first place, then it'll just continue to grow. Because that's the status quo. The status quo is what allows this program to go. That's why I said, equally as dangerous as the people who are making these illusions are the people who are allowing these illusions to be made, who are allowing the system to grow, who are in fact defending this program as it grows right underneath our noses. And yes, if you are just poo-pooing away stuff like racism and white supremacy as if, you know, humanity is the cure-all for that, you're not going to the foundation of why that exists. You're putting a Band-Aid on a cancer. And you're actually doing more harm than any good because you're selling people right in to the next agenda. And that's dangerous. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with this video. This system thrives off of destruction, death. They want to hit you with bombs. If you think that they'll drop Agent Orange in Vietnam on their own soldiers, poisoning even future generations of their own soldiers. They'll drop Agent Orange. They'll seed the clouds back then with whatever they're putting in the atmosphere. They'll drop bombs on entire communities to get one imaginary terrorist. They'll tell you that they're putting fighting weapons of mass destruction in order to get the oil, in order to get the land. This is all unnatural. If they'll do all that stuff, what makes you think they won't try to manipulate weather to kill people? A hurricane is a bomb. That's a bomb disguised as a natural disaster. If you are aware of this information and you don't see that your own nation is being attacked by its own government, I don't know what else to say. And this is not new, because this system is it's built upon attacking, not only attacking other people, but attacking itself. What do you think the Civil War was? To create superheroes and villains. And they still use that shit today. What do you think this ripping down these Confederate statues is? What do you think the Confederate flag existing to this day? Why wasn't the mentality of the Confederate flag faced back in the 60s? Why wasn't it healed back then, decades ago? Why now? Why wasn't it healed even before the Civil Rights Movement? Because it benefits the system. These are aces in the hole. These are mentalities that exist inside the people. When I was in the Army, it was people still wearing Confederate flags everywhere. Giant Confederate flags in their rooms in the military. And only right before I was getting out the first time in like 2004 did they say that you can't have a Confederate flag in there. People still had them on their cars, and it was only like a soft rule. And it was fought. And it wasn't enforced completely. Look at the Dukes of Hazzard. Why do you think that exists? Big ass Confederate flag on top of that car. They're the superheroes. Cowboys and Indians. That's what this system is about. Making superheroes and supervillains. You're watching a cartoon. You're watching a movie. And right underneath your nose, you're being attacked. It's not new. It's new for the people who have been protected by this system. And now they're seeing it. It's not new for the so-called minorities. It's not new for the melanated people. We know why Christopher Columbus Day exists. We know why Thanksgiving Day exists. We know and we knew why Christmas exists. We know all this shit. We knew all of this. It's only new to the people who've been benefiting from this shit for so long, decades and centuries. And those are the main people who are having difficulty or actually fighting the real change to happen. You're not going to have any real change within the box, within the program. You're going to play a softer movie. It'll move from a horror film, which is what we've been experiencing, a horror film, to an action film. And the action film involves death and destruction just like the horror film. But those bombs and those hurricanes are now hitting people's doorsteps that were apathetic that it was hitting other people's doorsteps and their mindsets every single day. These are the wounds that aren't being healed, that are being avoided by the mainstream media, by the conspiracy stories, your Alex Jones, TYTs, and Russell Brands, everybody out there that's not going to the depth of this entire civilization is allowing it to grow and defending it against other people, calling people like me and other people who speak out about this information racist because we bring up the origins of racism. No. There are natural people who will not stand for an unnatural society and so-called civilization to expand itself. The natural people who have not severed their roots to the spirit, to the natural mind and the natural body. The natural people will not allow this shit to go on. And it's up to the unnatural sympathizers to let go of their privileges and benefits from this system before any kind of real change actually happens. Let go of it from the inside out. Once you let go of it from the inside, then you will appear on the outside what it is that you actually need to do, or it'll happen on its own. Naturally. All these Vice TV shows and all this stuff talking about, how many people are being imprisoned today. The war on drugs was invented by the CIA. The war on terrorism was invented by the United States of America. ISIS was created by all this stuff that you know exists, that you pride yourself in knowing, being a truther and all that other stuff. But you don't allow yourself to step one step further and see that the entire system is rotten and it's not new. There is no new world order. It's only new to the people who haven't acknowledged that it's been an old world order against the natural people since this society, this so-called civilization, Western civilization, kicked into gear. There is no new world order. There's only a new phase to the old world order and new deceptions. So thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.